unconditional love from your parents is a miracle. And if you have that, that's about as good as it gets. If you don't have it, it's a big challenge. To love yourself enough, to believe in yourself, and do what you really want to do. And I think people, whether they get unconditional love or not, which of course you always have unconditional love and forgiveness from God, but not everybody can feel that or see it or sense it or understand it or live with it. I just think, don't be afraid of accidents, because probably most of the time they're miracles.
Well, I love the San Gabriel Valley.
Welcome to the My SGV podcast.
So I grew up here and I still live in Alhambra.
I was raised in between Temple City and Alhambra.
Eventually resided in South San Gabriel.
Our mission is to capture and share the stories of the people of the San Gabriel Valley.
Monterey Park has pretty much been my whole life.
Well, I'm proud to say that I was born and raised in the San Gabriel Valley.
We believe our diversity is what makes the SGV great. And no matter where you are from, in the San Gabriel Valley, you will feel welcome. All right, SGVers, welcome back to another episode of the My SGV podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you are new here, we bring you the stories of the people of the San Gabriel Valley. And if you are a returning listener, thank you so much for spending this time with us. We very much do appreciate it. Ada, you are back here again. Well, actually, we're in a new place,
Yes.
right? And you are part of this whole podcast journey. You're one of the first people to come on the show and share your journey with us. And I'm so glad to have you back.
Thank you.
And, you know, I want people to know who you are. I think you're part of the San Gabriel Valley history, but I also want to know, like, you know, what's been going on in your life and what are you sort of working on now in your life? And what are your reflections on your own, you know, life like? So, but before we get into that, thank you to Paris Baguette for sponsoring the delicious pastries each and every week for our guests. If you have not already, go check them out. They prepare boxes for us and our guests, and they are like either all sweet or all savory. So you have your choice after the show, Ada. Actually, a previous guest forgot to get hers, but that's okay. Maybe more for you. So go check them out in the city of San Gabriel and say hi to Jason and Joanna for us. She broke into a world that was not built to welcome her, and she did it with skill, grit, and work that had to speak louder than doubt. In 1978, she became the first woman licensed to shoe thoroughbred racehorses at Santa Anita, a milestone that made her the first to hold that kind of license in both the United States and Canada. That same steady standard showed up everywhere she serves, from being the Farrier liaison for the 1984 Los Angeles Olympics equestrian competition to building the safety protocols behind the Tournament of Roses horseshoe inspections in Pasadena, and earning honors like the American Farriers Association Edward Martin Humanitarian Award, an induction into the International Horseshoeing Hall of Fame. Please welcome back to the show for a second time, Ada Gates Patton. Ada, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Russell. It was an honor to be with you the first time, and it's even more of an honor to be back. I love seeing you, and thank you for inviting me.
Yes, thank you. I feel humbled in your presence and the things that you've achieved in your life. I'm just a guy behind a microphone, you know, but you've contributed so much to this community and to the world, and I think those stories need to be told and captured.
Thank you.
So we sort of went through your history before, coming from the East Coast in here. So maybe if you can give us a condensed version of that.
Sure. It's funny. I don't even know where to start anymore. I have such a colorful life, and I love sharing it with you. My beginnings were in a huge, big, happy, old American family with 8 children in an 18-room house in Locust Valley, Long Island, just out from New York City. And all we children had all these varied interests, and my parents were absolutely the opposite of helicopter parents. They loved their lives. They were involved with their lives. They were well known in the arts and in culture in the East Coast. My father was an architect, my mother a fashion designer, and my father created Steuben Glass and became vice president of Steuben Glass from the very beginning. And so he had an extraordinary life of creation of art and crystal, but he also was an administrator and had to run a big company. So Steuben was, of course, made by Corning Glassworks. Anyway, our parents had all these children, and some of them were his, hers, ours. I was from the last batch, and we just were lucky. We were blessed. We had everything we wanted. And of course, I was crazy for horses. I want a pony. My mother finally gave me a pony because she couldn't stand the whining anymore. And that was just the beginning of a lifelong passion. I wouldn't say I'm a horse person, but I have a real affinity and love of horses. And that was only expressed through riding. I fox hunted. I rode in horse shows back east. I came out west on a lark on a car trip with a girlfriend. I'd never been west of Hoboken. And all of a sudden I'm in the Rocky Mountains and I just love it. So I stay, and I'm skiing in Vail. I get a job as a waitress at Little House. My girlfriend, she went back to New York. And I got a horse. I hadn't had a horse for years. College and careers had, sort of interrupted the horse life. Got a horse, couldn't get a horseshoer. I was desperate. I found an article about a horseshoeing school in Oklahoma, so I said, I'm just going to go there. I'm going to learn how to shoe my horse, then I won't have this problem anymore. I didn't know what I was doing. I was a debutante. I had never picked up a hammer in my life. And I go to Oklahoma, there's me and 49 guys. And the teacher's, the first thing he says is, I don't want no woman in my school. Welcome, Ada. So nice to see you. So that was the beginning of experiencing a lot of negatives, a lot of energy against what I wanted to do. I didn't want to prove anything. I just wanted to shoe my horse. I wanted to solve a problem that I had. That's all. Well, God answers prayers even when you don't know you're praying, because miracles just kept coming to me over and over and over again. I go back to Colorado, not to Vail where there's no horses, but down on the western slope, lots of ranches. And I think to myself, well, what else am I doing? Maybe I can make a go out of this. Maybe somebody will hire me to shoe their horse. I've been trained. So housewives called me. Would you come and shoe my daughter's pony? Sure. So I started shoeing horses in western Colorado on the western slope, and after 6 years of being dragged around corrals, kicked in the head, whatever, I really loved it, Russell. I loved it. I used to be a dancer, so all those muscles came into play. I was outside. I was making money for the first time. I never really made any money in New York, and I just loved it. And then I thought, well, I really want to do more of this. I really want to be the best I can be. And there's nobody to study with in western Colorado. I was kind of like at the top of the heap in that little town. So I came to California. I served apprenticeships. I met Harry Patton. I applied to take a test at Santa Anita, which is, well, you have to take a 6-hour exam to get a license in the United States, at that time in all states. And I asked him if he would help me, and he said yes. I was shocked. A man actually had said yes, he would help me after 6-7 years of no, everywhere I went, especially on the East Coast. So I took the test, failed it. I cried. I said, I can't take this test again. It's just too hard. And the guy said, well, nobody's ever cried at a horseshoeing exam before. Anyway, I took the test again. I passed. And in 1978 became the first woman licensed to shoe thoroughbred racehorses. Now I'm in. Who wants to hire me? I'm the only girl. This is a completely man's world, the back stretch of the racetrack. These are really $1 million racehorses, the top jockeys and trainers in the country. But Harry gave me eyes. He trained me to shoe racehorses and to do it better than anybody else. well, not counting him and some top people. But all those horseshoers were really, really good. You weren't better than they were, but he taught me little things that helped. And the trainers were in the business of winning, so they hired me because they knew I could fix their horses. And I had a career beyond my wildest dreams. I shod champion horses that broke world's records, track records, were Breeders' Cup champions, Eclipse Award winners, and I could rattle off names and people would say, "What? You did Miesque? You did Wild again? You did Chinook Pass and Chief's Crown?" I said, yeah, I did. And I was just flying. I was 45 years old and I was at my peak. Can you imagine being that old and being at your peak? Most athletes, and that's a very athletic, you're burning up 15,000 calories a day shoeing racehorses or any horse. And I was flying. And along the road there, I met the chair of the equestrian committee for the Rose Parade, and I was trimming her Shetland ponies because she taught riding lessons to little children in La Cañada. And she said, "We're having a problem with the Rose Parade. All these horses are slipping on the pavement. Nobody's complying. Everybody's kind of all up at 6s and 7s." And she said, "Would you help us?" I said, "Of course I will." And so I wrote the policy and the specifications for all horses for the Rose Parade. And then I taught it to the marshals and wrote everything up so they understood it and talked to farriers. And I've been doing it for 30 years. Can you imagine?
Wow.
Boy,
Yeah.
They see me coming down the line with that clipboard and they're just terrified. But I'm not. I'm a milquetoast. I'm not tough. Well, I'm tough if I get belligerence. I'm tough if I get arrogance. I'm tough if somebody thinks they can make the rules. Doesn't happen in the Rose Parade. Everybody surrenders to the Rose Parade. It's such an honor to be in it. So once in a while you get a couple of, bits and pieces that, maybe I have to do a little kind of New York venting on them once in a while. It all works out.
See, well, that's such an extraordinary life that you just, sort of condense in a few minutes. You said growing up in an 18-bedroom house and getting a pony, like those are, in my world, such extraordinary things. But I'm interested in, where did you develop the idea that you have a problem like shoeing your horse, that you were just going to solve it in this way? Because that is an extraordinary thing to believe in, that you can just go out and do this. It's not like learning how to change a tire. You have to go to like training and like, where did you develop
Russell,
that from?
I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have a clue. Now, I had watched horseshoers do my horses for 20 years. I had watched blacksmiths do the work. And I was fascinated by it. I didn't have any idea why I was fascinated. They kind of made it look easy because they were so fit to it. I never thought about it. I never... My whole life has been an accident, and my whole life has been plunging.
You said you're not a horse person, but you're very fond of them. But I remember you said a story that sort of said that it's in your DNA.
I think so. It was really amazing. I had gone back east for Christmas, and my mother's first cousin, Townie Burden, her age, gave me a Christmas present. And he said, Ada, it's all come full circle. Your great-great-grandfather was a blacksmith, too. I said, what are you talking about? What ancestor? I've never heard anything like this. He said, Henry Burden, just go look him up. So I look up Henry Burden. Henry Burden came to America in the mid-1700s. He was an engineer from the University of Edinburgh in Scotland. He thought there was a new and exciting life in America, had a letter of introduction, and he was an inventor. And he came to America, just going into the 1800s. And he got a job in Troy, New York, with the Townsend brothers. The Townsend brothers built the chain by hand with their big factory of the chain that went across the Hudson River to keep the English from coming up the Hudson River during the American Revolution. Hello? Do you know how big those chain links were? They were the size of maybe a 4-story building. They were humongous. They had to be to keep ships from coming up the Hudson. So these Townsend brothers saw Henry Burden because he won some contest for a plow. And they said, we want you to come and work for us. And we see that you like to invent. And so what we're going to do, we're going to pay for all your research and development. And if you build a machine, now everything was done by hand up until now. If you build a machine that goes out in the market and makes money, we'll start to pay you. He said, no, I don't want any money. I want a percentage of your company. Guess who owned the company in not too many years? Anyway, so by 1857, Henry Burden had invented 3 major machines. The hook-headed railroad spike. Up until then, blacksmiths had to make a railroad spike, but the railroads were developing so quickly that blacksmiths couldn't keep up. So he invented a machine that spit out thousands and thousands of railroad spikes. Then he invented a machine called the steel puddling machine that extruded iron ore into rebar so you could make skyscrapers. Up until then, you could only build a wooden house 3 stories high, and then it would fall over. And then he built the only machine in the world to make horseshoes. 60 shoes a minute, 1 per second. And the Civil War loomed. And Henry Burden got the only no-bid contract for the Civil War to provide horseshoes for the Union Army. So the Union Army went off with Burden horseshoes in their knapsacks, and when they were going down the campaign trail, if a horse lost a shoe, they could just jump off and put the shoe on and keep going. The Confederates, they had to come out of the thing, and they had to go to the blacksmith shop, and they had to wait around while the horseshoe had made 4 new shoes. And by the time they were done, they didn't even know where their regiment was. They say when Confederates captured Union regiments, they went after 2 things: ammunition and Burden horseshoes. Now, Henry Burden was making $1 million a year in 1861 with 3 machines: hook-headed railroad, horseshoes, and making rebar. In 1863, going into the Civil War, he was making $3 million a year on horseshoes alone.
Wow.
And then when the Civil War was over, all those soldiers came back to their farms and farmed with their horses and kept buying Burden horseshoes. So Henry Burden was part of the beginning and the creation of the Industrial Revolution. And there were many men, Elias Cotton Gin and all the machines that created the Industrial Revolution. They were coming in those early 1800s.
Well, thanks for sharing that story.
I hope it wasn't too long.
That.
Yeah, thank you.
I've heard that story from you, but wow, what an incredible story and connection to this country, and in the full circle moment of the horseshoes.
I had no idea, Russell. I started shoeing horses. I had no idea who Henry Burden was. So the director of the Burden Iron Works said, "Ada, I think your Henry come back." And I said, well, the thing was, Henry wasn't a horseshoer. He was an engineer. He was a mechanic. He was an inventor. Guess who I married? I married Harry Patton, that mentor that said yes to me, I'll help you. I married Harry Patton 11 years later, and Harry Patton was a machinist and an inventor. So if I'm Henry, Henry had to be around machines. Why would a debutante from New York marry a machinist from Long Beach, California? Hello? Of course, my mother was horrified. But anyway, I think it was just Henry wanting to be with Harry.
I see.
If you want to look at it that way, why not?
Yeah.
Of course, I loved him dearly.
Sure. You shared a bit before in the first show about your husband, what he meant to you, and all that. You know, he's a big part of your life as well.
Changed
in your
my
story.
life. Changed my life.
Yeah. I'm very curious now. Like, these are the things that I've thought about you coming back. Is when you look back on your life, your career, what are the things that you see fill in like your purpose? What do you look at yourself as a farrier, someone who championed or opened doors for women in this field? Like, what are those things that sort of feel that, like, what your purpose was?
That's a good question, Russell. I never thought I was doing anything to open doors for women, although I did, because women have told me, oh, Ada, we saw you in the 70s, and we thought, well, if she can do that, I can do that. I didn't know that, and I didn't do it to open doors for women. I never thought about anything. I just kept doing it. I think in looking back, though, I truly don't self-aggrandize myself with, achievement and accomplishments. I just thought I was normal. Can you believe it? Thought I was normal because I had great parents and I have great siblings. I came from a big family and everybody did what they wanted to do. All these children that my parents raised, self-selected, and my parents supported and cherished that.
Self-selected, meaning like you could choose your own path.
Well, you see boys tearing radios apart or, running cars through the dirt. They become car mechanics, or girls play with dolls or have a piano and they become musicians. I don't know, children show themselves very early, I think. And I think parents, if they're wise and loving, let them have at it. They don't crush that. They don't crush that, what that child wants to do. So I think I was lucky that God put me in that family. It's the way I live that may mean something more than actually what I did. A lot of people shoe horses. A lot of good horseshoers out there. And I learned how to do that. But so did a lot of other people. I think maybe it was where I came from. I don't know. It was like I didn't stop. I didn't let anybody stop me. And I have a younger baby brother who's very kind of stuck in his life and stuck in how he wants to do things. And he and I had a kind of contretemps about something that had come up between the two of us. And my older brother, who's an alpha lawyer in Wall Street, he's now retired, Peter Gates said, oh, okay, the unstoppable meets the immovable. I mean, he saw both of us very clearly. I was the unstoppable. My brother was the immovable. And in the end, who was going to give in? Well, I gave in.
How so?
Well, I just apologized to him for being so unstoppable. And I just let him have what he wanted to have. And it was fine. It's fine.
So it's that unstoppable force, that spirit that I'm so curious, like, how does somebody develop that?
I think you get it in your family. I think it's something that you're just given.
And not only that question, but how did you develop that and not become a bitter person, or, people can see those obstacles and they can make them angry or spiteful.
Well, it's interesting because I first started out as a dancer and an actress in New York in the theater. And I just wanted to be this famous actress and dancer. Absolutely had no ability whatsoever. I love to dance, yes, and I danced a lot. And I liked to act, and I had some kind of comedic style. And I got some theater and jobs. But I wasn't Meryl Streep. Never going to be Meryl Streep. I didn't have the drive for the craft. I just wanted the fame and the money. And I admitted that to myself. Even though I might not have said the words, I knew I was being an imposter and I was a fake. And so when the horseshoeing started and I just did it, as out of necessity, I just kept loving it more and more and more. And I just had a drive to be good. And that's what you have to have. Somebody said that to me, a very famous fashion designer, interior designer, Albert Hadley, very famous. He said, Ada, whatever you do, you have to have the drive to be good. And I had that because I didn't want to fail. I was scared to fail.
Scared to fail?
I was afraid to fail. I think fear drove me more than anything else. A fear of failure.
Really?
Yeah.
Who would you disappoint?
I guess myself. I don't know. I just didn't want to be stuck in some corner in a cubicle in a desk and have no purpose. I guess purpose comes into it, but I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know those words. They were not in my mind.
So you've been working with the Rose Parade for 3 decades.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
And what was it like when you finally gave up shoeing racehorses? What was that moment like for you?
Well, I didn't want to do it. But Harry was diagnosed with inoperable, incurable cancer, and my life did not come to a pause. It came to a stop. And I spent 3 years, 24/7, shaking him. You're not going to die. You're not going to die. If you die, I'm going to kill you. And my whole life stopped. So I stopped horseshoeing. I was 57 years old. I didn't have any reason to stop. Because, you're fit. You shoe horses, you're very, very strong. You're very fit. And I, at 57, was still fit. But I took care of Harry for 3 years. I never, ever left his side, ever. And I couldn't believe it when he died. But he had a cancer that most people don't survive more than 3 months. Not pancreatic, duodenal. Very rare, no protocol for it. Nobody survives it. There's just months. And he lived for 3 years. Because he had a will to live, too.
Sounds like you look back on that time, I don't know how to describe it, not unfavorably, but like it's a...
It's funny, Russell. I've thought about that. I went through a time I had never been through in my life. A kind of living grief, a sorrow, an angst. Couldn't control it, couldn't stop it. And I think you suffer so much, and then it's over. But it's not over. But it's like you become like tempered steel inside your soul. Tempered steel, which I know a lot about working iron as a blacksmith. Tempered steel is harder than just steel. I don't know how to, you have to look it up. Tempered steel is harder than regular steel.
Yes.
It's been through the fire. And I think I lived through a fire for a long time.
And then how did you come out of that? Besides the analogy of being stronger, like what did that look like? What is your...
It took a long time. It took years. I just hid. I didn't want to do anything. I couldn't do anything. I had to run this company selling horseshoes at a blacksmith shop. And I don't know how many times I cried myself to sleep at night. I didn't want to do it. I'm not a businesswoman, but I had to because it was his company. I made horrible mistakes. Failed math anyway, so handling money was not a strong suit. But I survived. I don't know how I survived. I just kept going. But it was a long, sorrowful decade. Easy peasy, decade.
A decade. That's a long time.
Maybe longer. I mean, Harry died in 2000. Now, it's 26 years ago. It took a long time to come out of it.
What were your supports like during that time?
Well, mostly my staff, my employees at the blacksmith shop. I either hated them and screamed at them and they ran away because they quit because they couldn't stand me, or they didn't like me or I didn't like them. I don't know. I went through a lot of employees, and then I got two that were really good. They just walked in the door and I said, "You're hired," through friends, some kind of contact. And they've been with me 20 years. Or less, maybe 15, 18. Yeah. Alicia and Jerry.
How did you know when you had finally come out of it, so to speak?
Good question, Russell. When did I come out of it? I'm not sure. I don't know if there were some events or whatever. I think having a better staff and having them do more things that I didn't have to do anymore. A good employer always hires people that are much better than they are. Much better than they are. Then I can stay home and eat bonbons, but I think there was a relief that business wasn't 1,000% my burden all over me. I think it was when I learned about measuring feet with a ruler. A man came from Australia, Farmelo. Last name was Farmelo. And he had this ruler that he invented. And he taught me how to use it, and I helped him sell it in America. And he and his wife, we went to a lot of conventions and did clinics, and we sold a lot of rulers. And then all of a sudden, that relationship went a little sour. It was fine. It just went through its course. And so I thought, well, a ruler is a ruler. So I had one made that was different, but it's still measured. And I've been teaching people how to use that ruler for, 15 years now. And the reason I know it works is because I studied with Monty Roberts, who's a very famous horse trainer. He was the trainer for Queen Elizabeth for 35 years, been all over the world teaching nonviolent training. And Monty taught me the language of the horse, which he learned crawling on his belly when he was 15 years old, catching wild horses. He would watch the wild horses and how their language with each other. And they have a silent language. They're not like wolves that howl and bark and make noises. They're very quiet. But they put their ears back and they do this and they have eyes and they stomp and whatever. So I learned the language of the horse, and when the horse is happy, contented, protected, safe, and comfortable, he does certain things. He drops his head, he starts licking and chewing, his ears go forward, his eyes go soft, and when he walks away, he kind of moves with a kind of waving, comfortable gait. And when you measure feet and you have a 50-50 bottom on their feet, that's where they want to be. The horses tell you if it's right or not. And Monty and I, we've done some videos together. And we both looked at each other one day during a video, and the horse was standing in front of us. And we were talking about, all the opinions, you read them in magazines, it's on YouTube, and trainers and vets, they have all these opinions. And we both looked at each other, and we both said, the only opinion that matters is the opinion of the horse. And we both pointed at the horse. I love Monty Roberts. He's 90 years old. He's just the most divine man in the whole world. And I've been his horseshoer since 1978.
Wow.
He and his wife are I'm very close to them.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. Ida, I'm not sure if we had this segment on the first time you were on, but now we ask each guest to bring an item with them. What did you bring with you today?
I didn't know what to bring.
Can you show this camera?
I thought about it. These are Greek dancers, and they're made out of wool and some linen. And my parents left their children. We were 10 years old. I was 10 years old. Left their children for 3 weeks with a nanny. And they went off with Grady Cochran, this very famous sailor and adventurer. And he had this 80-foot multi-masted sailing ship. And my parents went sailing with Brady Cochran all over the Greek Isles for 3 weeks.
Oh, not even for work. They just went on
Oh,
vacation.
no, they were just sailing.
Okay.
Oh, no. Brady Cochran didn't work. And he was just very famous and very well known on the East Coast. And he had sailed all over the world. And my parents sailed with him for 3 weeks, all through the Greek islands. And my parents brought me back these Greek dancers. And I've had them ever since. I'm talking about early 50s. Early 50s.
Wow. That's awesome.
So, and I've loved them, and they've always been in my life. And anywhere I've lived, anywhere I've been, the little Greek dancers have been right on that my George III mahogany spindle table lamp that has a little platform on it, and they're always right there on that platform.
Thanks for bringing that in and for sharing that story with us.
Thank you.
Ida, we're going to get back to your story, but before that, let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Sometimes, even the best of us can slip up. That's why the law offices of Scott Wormuth are here to pick you back up again.
And while they strive to get you the biggest compensation possible, oh my gosh!
Their main concern is your health and recovery. They work closely with doctors and insurance companies to make sure you get the proper medical treatment.
Initial consultations are free, so give them a call.
At the law offices of Scott Wormuth, we're with you all the way.
I'm Scott Wormuth. We've been fighting for your rights for more than 40 years.
All right, we're back with Ada. Ada, before the break, you were sharing these Greek dolls that your parents had given you. Thank you for bringing those in. I want to get back to your story, and you have been working, or actually, the help you got with the store sort of helped get you out of this slump or this time in your life. Right. You've been working with the Rose Parade for 30 years. Yeah. You shared how they were having issues and you were the right person for them. So take me back to that first year when you had to develop these rules or even enforce them. What was that like? Were people receptive of you? And you know, how was that?
Well, nobody knew what we were doing. I mean, the marshals had never had anybody tell them what to do. I had never told anybody what to do. We didn't know what we were doing. We just started. So everybody was good about it because, you know, the health and safety of the horse and rider are paramount, and you don't need to tell that to a rider. You don't need to tell that to the equestrian committee. I mean, you cannot have horses falling down, and horseshoes on pavement are very slippery, and horses will slip and fall. Can't have that happen. Mm-mm. So I think those first years, it was difficult. They didn't know what to do. They couldn't comply. They didn't comply. They were confused. They'd wait till the last minute. They had so many other things they had to think about, the flowers, the saddles, getting everybody from Illinois to Burbank, from, you know, Bakersfield, whatever. It's a big deal to put 200 horses together from all over the United States. So I think the captains and marshals were busy doing all of those things, and they left the horseshoeing to the end, and then they didn't know what to do. So there would be lots of phone calls, and I just think the early years we survived them, but they didn't go smoothly because we were both learning. What did I have to tell them? How could I help them? How could I be of service? And so for a long time, things went really, really well. Once in a while, you get a glitch. And then I found that things were starting to go in retrograde. Things were kind of going backwards, and I was getting phone calls 3 days before the parade. Well, what do I have to do to my horses? What's traction? What do I have to do? I said, wait a second. Wait, okay, stop. So then I started making more specifications. I started saying, guess what, boys and girls? I'm not going to see you in September and then just show up and listen to you in December. I'm going to be in communication with you every month, sometimes twice a month, emails, phone calls, and I'm just going to check in with you, and I'm going to write you a protocol. You got to start shoeing your horses now. Then you do them every 5 weeks. And then I want the last shoeing with traction to be 10 days before the parade. Okay? So, like December 15th, December 20th, that's the last day you can shoe your horses with traction or trim them if they're barefoot. So then I would go backwards 5 weeks, 6 weeks. So those first meetings are in mid-September. I'd say, wait a second, boys and girls, the first shoeing has to start right now, because if you're going to do every 5 or 6 weeks and be done by December 15th, this is the schedule you need to follow. And I've done that for a couple of years, and they've been doing it. They've been doing it. They've been shoeing their horses on time and 10 to 15 days before the parade, which gives the horse a little bit of foot, a little growth in their foot, so they're not just short-shod sore, because it's 7 miles of pavement. It's really hard on feet. So that's working very well, and people are really happy because the anxiety is gone. They finally have a very clear time path to follow, which they didn't before. So I've learned a lot from them.
And what does traction mean?
Traction is tungsten carbide that's applied to the bottom of the horseshoe that keeps the shoe from slipping on pavement. It would be like what golfers wear to not slip in the grass, or football players wear. Well, they wear cleats that just dig into the ground. But because we're on pavement, we're not digging into anything. So we have to have tungsten carbide tips or pins that extrude a little bit below the surface of the horseshoe, and they grab the pavement. So the horse steps down, he slides a little bit, and then the tungsten pin grabs the pavement, and horses love it because they know they're not going to slip and fall down. Horses do not want to fall down. And so then they become happy and relaxed. And I see horses in the parade today, they're so happy, they're just going along, and their ears are forward, and their eyes are bright, and they're just relaxed and happy, and the riders are happy and relaxed, and nobody's slipping.
To do that for 30 years and to have them, all these horses and all these riders commit to this process that starts 3 months before, that's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Wow. And on TV, no one's the wiser. They just
no. Nobody has a clue.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly wouldn't know.
No, the public doesn't know those things.
Wow. And so where are you during the parade?
Well, because I'm a volunteer, there's 900 volunteers. Nobody gets paid.
Wait, you volunteer for this?
Oh, no, I've never been paid a dime. No. This is months and months and hours of work. And I'm one of 950 volunteers that make the Rose Parade run.
Wow, that is something else.
Yep. Now, I have horseshoers that work with me, so if they do any work on a horse, like before the parade, they're paid for their work, but I'm not paid to be the inspector at all. Well, for years, everybody wanted to go to the Rose Parade. So I said, well, I can get tickets. I can get really good seats right on the corner of Orange Grove and Colorado Boulevard. So every year I'd have, 4 people that wanted to go to the parade. Sometimes they'd come out from New York, they'd come from Arizona, they'd come from Chicago, because they wanted to get, well, not Arizona, but anybody on the East Coast would come and stay with me for a week, and I'd take them to the parade. So the committee is very generous. They would give me 4 tickets for my guests and 1 for me. So I'd get 5 tickets right below CBS at all the, speakers. So that went on for years and years and years and years. And then I said, well, I've seen a lot of parades now. And, if somebody doesn't ask me, then I don't go, because I've been to so many parades. But my job starts at 4 o'clock in the morning of the parade. And I go down in the pitch dark to what they call the pit, which is the underpass under, like near that Del Mar, California the shuttle thing that goes under some, like some of the overpasses. So the horses line up there at midnight. There's like a half a mile of trucks, huge trucks, trailers, vans, RVs, You can't believe the rolling stock that's lined up along that underpass. So I start at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm there. Horses aren't out yet. It's pitch dark. It's freezing cold. Maybe somebody's crazy enough to want to go with me. So I said, fine, you hold the flashlight. So then I go up through all those groups, Russell. There's like 20 groups or 18 groups. There's 200 horses. Sorry, I keep bumping this. And I have my list of what groups, got everybody. And I go up through the groups and I spot check 1 or 2 horses. Now, they don't know which horse I'm going to look at, so they have to all be ready. And it takes an hour. I start about 5. Horses have come out of their trailers by then. And so I start about 5 and I go up. It takes about an hour. So by 6 o'clock, I'm done. You know what I do? I get in my car and I drive home. I get in my nightie and I go to bed.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you probably get the best view. You're warm and comfy.
And I can watch the parade.
Yeah. So it sounds like you'll plan to continue doing that work into the future.
Well, as a matter of fact, Pasadena Now did write a story about me. I hope I gave it to you. It was very well written by Teresa Edu, really good writer. And she wanted to do another. I've been in Pasadena Now each year for a couple of years. And I said, well, you know, I think I'm going to get somebody to help me. I think I'm going to get somebody to ride shotgun for me. You know what a shotgun means? They're up on the stagecoach with a shotgun. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I know a man called Mark Butler. He used to be a Marine. He decided that wasn't tough enough, so he became a horseshoer. He's really, really good. He's a really good horseshoer. Born and raised in Illinois, trained horses, was a horseshoer back there. And when he and I met, because he was a customer in my blacksmith shop, I showed him the ruler. He said, oh, that looks good. I want to hear about that. I said, well, let's go horseshoeing together. So I showed Mark how to measure a foot. He said, oh, I like this a lot. He's used the ruler on every foot, on every horse since, and that was 10 years ago. He's always had a lot of business, but he's really got a lot of business because all his horses are sound. I mean, just dead sound. So I said, Mark, do you want to run the Rose Parade? Well, sure. What does that mean? What is that going to take? I said, well, come with me this year, and I'll take you everywhere, and we'll do it. And I said, you want to saddle up? He said, sure. So Mark Butler is going to take over my job. Maybe not. He just watched it this year. He'll probably segue into most of it next year. And, you know, being a Marine, he knows how to be a leader. He knows how to talk to people. He knows how to be authoritative without being brutish. And he's very smart. And he knows how to handle people.
Oh, okay. So you're going to step away after some time.
Well, I'll probably still be the guy in the Armani suit out front, you know, greeting everybody. I did have lunch with Jeanette Collier, who's director of operations, and we sat down for lunch a couple of months ago. I said, you know, Jeanette, I think it's time for me. You're not finishing that sentence. You're never leaving us. I said, Jeanette, I'm becoming ancient. What if I want to go home and go back east for Christmas? I haven't been home for Christmas. Well, home. I live here. I have home. But I haven't been with my family for 30 years for Christmas. Hello? Because you can't go back east and then get stuck in a snowstorm and then not get back here in time.
So before we go on to the food part of the show, which I'm very curious about because I don't think that we did that last time.
Oh, yeah.
Looking back on your life, what are the lessons learned that, you know, if you know, it's hard to summarize a life like that, but something to impart to a younger generation, not necessarily of farriers, but just of people. Like when you look back, what are the most important lessons that you hope to pass on?
You know, I don't know what young people are going through today. I can only imagine they have the same fears that we've all had all our lives. We're young. We don't know what we're doing. We're starting out. What are we going to do? What are we going to be? First of all, unconditional love from your parents is a miracle. And if you have that, that's about as good as it gets. If you don't have it, it's a big challenge. To love yourself enough, to believe in yourself and do what you really want to do. And I think people whether they get unconditional love or not, which of course you always have unconditional love and forgiveness from God, but not everybody can feel that or see it or sense it or understand it or live with it. I think the only thing I would say is it's hard to figure out what you want to do. I mean, I was 23 years old in New York. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Don't be afraid of accidents, because probably most of the time they're miracles. So when things happen to you that are unexpected, or maybe you didn't really want it, like the car broke down in Colorado. I didn't want the car to break down, but because the car broke down, I had to stay in Colorado, and while I was there, I said, wow, this place is great. So there's an accident that was a miracle because it changed my life. So I would maybe say, don't be afraid of accidents or unexpected difficulties. We're all where we're exactly supposed to be. And I would just say, be brave. Be brave. And keep going.
Thanks for that, Ida. One more question. What are you working on now? What are you excited about?
Two things. I'm going further afield, helping people with lame horses. Now through WhatsApp, FaceTime, I can shoe horses 3,000 miles away. I can shoe them in Brazil. I can shoe them, I can be in my nightie in my four-poster bed at 2 o'clock in the morning shoeing a horse in Brazil. Because all you need is a cell phone, the ruler, a horseshoer, and a translator.
Wow.
And, I speak Spanish, but not quite well enough, but I have taught shoeing in Spanish. And it's amazing. The farriers love it. Nobody's ever helped them before. They didn't know what to do. And this hussy in Los Angeles is talking to them on a FaceTime and saying, okay, now do this. Okay, stop. No, don't go there. No, stop. Slow down. Okay, put the ruler on. Make your marks, blah, blah, blah. And in the end, I didn't tell them anything. I just was a messenger for what the horse needs and wants. And these men all over the world, they love horses. So the foot goes down on the ground, and I said, don't look at the foot, look at the head, look at the eyes, look at the ears, look at the mouth licking and chewing, look at the head dropping to the ground. That horse is happy. And they love it. They say, oh my God. And then they watch the horse walk, and they're just even happier. Anyway, so I'm excited about expanding that. And now people say, would you come to Nova Scotia and do a horseshoeing clinic from my jumper barn? Sure. And I don't charge hardly any money at all. I mean, I should. People get angry. Ada, you're really worth more than that. You should charge more than $125. It should be $1,000. Well, I don't know. Maybe I'll get there someday. I'm not interested. I made a lot of money shoeing horses. I invested it well. I'm fine. I can pay my bills. And the other thing that sort of turned up was years ago, a friend of mine who was in a skilled nursing home or I don't know what she was, like a, retirement. She said, Ada, I just love your life. Would you come and give a talk to the senior people that I live with about your life? Oh, how am I going to do that? How do I do that? She said, well, you could show pictures. Well, okay. So I get Jerry Escamilla, who's brilliant. He's in IT, can do anything IT. I said, Jerry, can you make me something called a PowerPoint? I don't know what that is, but can you make me a PowerPoint with pictures? He said, sure. So I collected all these photographs, the house and the family and riding and going, the life anyway. And then ending, with the racetrack. And then I was on David Letterman, so I end with 4 minutes of David Letterman teaching him how to shoe a horse, a complete scream. And I go and give this talk all over the country. I got one in Claremont in a couple of weeks. I'm going to Ohio in April and giving a talk to a club at the Chagrin Valley Hunt Club. I've been twice to the National Museum of Racing in Saratoga, which is the biggest museum of racing, in the world. So twice I've been a speaker and told the story with the PowerPoint. And, I don't say anything. I just tell the story and I let people receive whatever message they want to get. I'm not giving a message. I'm just chugging along. And then they say, wow. Oh, wow. And they all love it. Everybody loves it. Because I'm a wild and crazy guy, Russell.
You definitely are. I always remember from our first meeting, you said a term that I didn't remember, and you just said, "Oh, you're too young. You don't know anything.
You don't know anything." Well, I know. Well, you obviously know what that means because you're too young and you don't know anything.
I was like, okay.
What was the word? What was it? Oh God.
Like something about Harry coming close to you, like.
Mashing.
Yeah,
mashing.
Something like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay, so I met Harry, and I asked him if he would help me. He said yes. So he said, meet me in the blacksmith shop, next Tuesday at whatever. I said, I'll go to the blacksmith shop. And now the minute I laid my eyes on Harry Patton, I said, ooh, I've had 647 boyfriends, but I could marry him. I could marry him. It just went right through my head like that. The third time I met Harry Patton, he was mashing me over the anvil, which means he was like, I'm kind of back over the anvil like this, and he's kind of coming over me like this, and he's saying, I think we should get married. So the third time I met him, he asked me to marry him. And I said, oh, I'd have to think about that, Harry. So you see a man, you want to marry him, or you say you're going to marry him, and the third time you meet him, he asks you to marry him. Hello? But I'm too stupid to actually go ahead and do it. I had to wait a little while.
I see. Well, thank you for that, Ida. We're going to move on to the last segment of the show, where we get to learn a little bit different side of you. So this is what we call the SGV3. So Ada, this is what we call the SGV3, and we want to know your 3 favorite places to eat in the San Gabriel Valley.
Oh, that's easy.
Oh, easy. Okay, everybody says it's hard, but okay, let's go.
Well, Nick's on Lake Avenue, but only at 3 o'clock for lunch. Because there's nobody there, and you can sit right opposite the kitchen, and you can we'll get good service anyway, but you can hear yourself talk. You can actually visit with the person you're with, and at 3 o'clock, there's nobody there, and you get the best food in the whole world, Nick's on Lake near Del Mar.
And what kind of food is it, and what do you like to get there?
I don't know. I think I had poke, raw tuna tartare.
Oh, mm-hmm.
I think I had that, and I can't remember what else I had. I had like 2 hors d'oeuvres. Off the charts. So good. Then the other restaurant I've loved for a long, long time is Takoro Sushi on Fair Oaks and South Pass, just north of Mission. I love to sit at the sushi bar, go there with a friend, and I watch them make the sushi, and I get the same thing every time. I don't care. I want California roll and spicy tuna. I want 2 orders of each. Love, 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 love it. And then the other one that I like is Bone Kettle, which is new to me. Bone Kettle's on Raymond, just south of Holly. And I went there with the director of the senior center, Annie Lasky, with her father, who's 90 or 93. And the 3 of us went there. Oh, my God. And we went at 5 o'clock. I love going where there's nobody there because I can't stand all the talking. I can't hear people talking to me. I mean, I have, my hearing's okay. All that distraction. Anyway, so I love going, when it's quiet. And I think I had some prawns in a big pile with noodles around it. Oh, my God. Oh, off the charts. And now I've discovered bone broth, and they have a 32-hour bone broth that they make, and then they dribble food in it. So I'm going there on Tuesday, March 3rd with my two girlfriends, Annie Lasky, the director of the Senior Center, and Loretta Mokler, who's just to die for, divine woman, huge mogul, was hired by corporations all over the world to tell them how to run their businesses. Loretta's a piece of work. So we three girls are going to go to Bone Kettle and my treat, we're just going to eat whatever we want.
Awesome.
And that's very Asian, very Asian. Philippines.
I think they're Indonesian.
Sorry, you're right.
Yeah, they were on the show.
They should be. They're a fabulous restaurant.
Oh, they were.
Good.
Yeah. So, Ada, thank you so much for being here.
Russell.
Thank you for coming back here and sharing your story.
Thank you, Russell.
Yeah,
I
really appreciate it.
Wonderful to see you.
Yeah.
I love all the things that you do and proud of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ada. Well, there you go, another episode in the books. I hope you enjoyed that. I love to hear history told in this way, from someone who's experienced it, lived it, and sort of to be able to preserve these stories in some meaningful way. That makes this what we do here feel very purposeful. If it's not chronicled in this way or in some way, then if the stories are not told, then they sort of go away. They sort of die. So thank you, Ada, for sharing those stories with us. If you like this kind of content, please like and share. Please consider becoming a subscriber, and you can see more of our content on our website, mysgv.net. And until next week, we'll see you then. Thank you for joining us on the MySGV podcast. Check out more of our content on our website, mysgv.net. This show was produced by Scott Wormuth, directed by Russell Mano, edited by Victoria Allers, and original music by Yone OG. If you'd like to join us next week as we capture and share more stories from our diverse community, feel welcome.
Nice mother. No kind of mother.